I'm Jane Copier, and you're listening to Happy in the Middle, a podcast for Christian women who want to make the second half of life the best half. This podcast is all about helping women to reignite their spark and step into their divine power in order to create deep and connected relationships and also find that fulfillment and satisfaction they crave. So, if you're ready to grow, join me and learn how you too can overcome guilt, resentment, disappointment, and enjoy the fruits of creating a life well lived. Let's go. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the podcast. I have a really special episode for you today. We are going to dive into one of my favorite and honestly, probably one of the most transformative things that you can do to improve your marriage. Even maybe your close relationships like with your children, but I would say especially for your marriage, and that is the skill of differentiation. Some of you might not have even heard of this term before, so let me share the simplest definition that I can. Google provides a good one, so we'll go with it. It says differentiation in relationships is the ability to maintain your sense of self, your values, and your individuality, all while staying emotionally connected to your partner. It's actually the opposite of being codependent. It's unenmeshing yourself, maintaining your independence as a person, and being in an intimate partnership. So differentiation is what allows you to express your own thoughts and feelings while also respecting your partner's thoughts and feelings. And learning this skill is really crucial for helping you to navigate those conflicts that come up in a constructive manner. It allows space for both people to matter and to take up space in the relationship. And that freedom to be yourself is exactly what you need to build a more mature and authentic connection. So there you have it. It sounds great, right? Well, stay with me because understanding this concept is one thing. And as I know from experience, actually implementing it, especially if it's been a long-term pattern for you, can be much more difficult. And that is what I plan to help you with today. First, I want to give you a real quick announcement. Have you ever wished that you could just ask someone what to do next in your marriage, maybe with a situation with your kid, with your job, whatever's worrying you? Well, now you can. I am going to be hosting a free live coaching call on Zoom where you can bring your real life questions and get coached. No topic is off limits. If it's part of your life, we can talk about it. So you can submit your questions ahead of time or join me live and raise your hand for coaching. You'll have the option of using your camera or remaining anonymous. So no worry if you feel uncomfortable being on screen. But this is your chance to come experience what it feels like to be coached, to feel seen, to feel understood, and then also have a fresh perspective on your own situation without any pressure or commitment. So come for the coaching, whether you submit a question or not, because you will have those little aha moments, even if you're just listening in. But my promise to you is that it will be time well spent. You will leave feeling lighter and more hopeful and empowered to find solutions to your problems. So spots are limited because I want it to feel personal and interactive. So grab your free seat now before they're gone. I'll post a link in the show notes, or you can go to my website, janecopier.com, and sign up there. It will be Tuesday, November 18th. So just look for the Ask Jane sign up on the main page of my website, janecopier.com. It will be at 10 a.m. Pacific, 11 Mountain Time, noon Central, and 1 p.m. Eastern Time. I used to host these calls all the time, and it has been too long, so I am excited to get back to it. So maybe pause real quick right now, go sign up before you forget, and then come back and finish listening because this topic of differentiation is super important. Okay, let's get to it. No one goes into a relationship hoping to lose themselves. We love our independence. We love being individuals. Most of the time, we meet someone and we're attracted to those traits that they have that are opposite of what we might possess. And so whether we're conscious of it or not, we kind of desire to bring their differences into our lives because it feels like it will complement us. It feels like it will complement our life experience. It adds dimension. So we join our lives together, but then we come to resent some of those differences. We become enmeshed with our partner and we lose our sense of emotional freedom, our sense of self. So what goes wrong? Well, I think it's important to understand the science behind it. When we're born as babies, we are born with what are called mirror neurons. They're these fascinating little brain cells that help us connect, help us to empathize, help us to learn sociality through observation. These neurons fire not only when you do something, but also when you see someone else do it. So, for example, when your mama would smile at you, your mirror neurons would activate as if you were smiling. You've seen this with babies, right? You smile at them and they smile back. And it's your brain's way of saying, oh, I get it. I know what it feels like, right? And in those really early stages, babies don't have the capacity to differentiate. They don't see themselves as different from their moms. Those mirror neurons are kicking in and they respond often to the stimulus around them. So those mirror neurons play several key roles. They help us to learn empathy and emotional connection. They help you feel with other people and understand other people's emotions by intentionally mirroring their expressions or their body language. This is why seeing someone else cry can make you tear up, or when you're watching a joyful moment, it can make you smile. This happens for all of us, right? So as you grow, they allow us to learn new behaviors, especially social and motor skills, by watching other people. And also think about how children learn to wave, right? To speak, to show kindness. They're literally mirroring what they see. Those mirror neurons also help you to interpret why someone is doing something, not just what they're doing. For instance, you can sense whether someone's handing you something to share it with you or pulling it away protectively. And if you've watched little kids do this, it's very, very interesting to watch and just see how those mirror neurons come into play. Okay, so they also help us with social bonding. They help us with communication. These neurons are part of what makes human relationships possible. They create kind of a resonance. They allow us to connect on a deeper feeling level than just on a surface level. So to sum it all up, those mirror neurons are like the brain's empathy network. They bridge the gap between me and you, and they help us fine tune into one another emotionally, mentally, and even spiritually. So your mirror neuron system is constantly reading the emotional temperature of the people around you. We are emotionally intelligent this way. We can sense what's going on in our spouse, in our kids, our coworkers, even in strangers as they walk down the street. Right? It's part of what makes you intuitive and empathetic. But here's the catch. If you don't have strong emotional boundaries, if you don't know where you end and another person begins, your mirror neurons can lead you to absorb other people's emotions instead of just noticing them. So let's say your husband walks in the door grumpy. Before he even speaks, your mirror neurons pick up on his facial tension, body language, his tone. Your brain automatically mirrors his state. Suddenly you feel irritated or uneasy, even though nothing happened to you. Does this sound familiar? It makes sense because this is how your mirror neurons work. They're doing their job. But without conscious awareness, they can pull you into emotional enmeshment instead of connection. So the goal isn't to turn off your empathy. It's how to learn how to use it wisely. Mirror neurons are meant to create attunement, not absorption. And here's what I mean. With attunement, it means I can feel what you're feeling and I can stay grounded in myself while I do. When it's absorption, it means I feel what you're feeling and now I've lost myself in your emotion. When you practice staying emotionally differentiated, you can use your mirror neurons for compassion without drowning in someone else's mood. This is especially powerful for us as women who have spent decades tuning into everyone else's needs, the kids, the spouse, the church, the community. If you know, you know. And I would say from a faith perspective, I think mirror neurons are one of the ways that God designed us to literally embody empathy. I love the scripture in Romans 12:15. It says, rejoice with those who rejoice, mourn with those who mourn. That's not just poetic, it's actually neurobiological. Your brain is wired to participate in another's joy or sorrow. It's one of the ways that we bear one another's burdens. But even Jesus showed emotional boundaries. He could be deeply compassionate without being consumed by the emotions of others. That's the model. Deep empathy without emotional fusion. So, going back to your own relationship, after the dopamine of the honeymoon phase wears off, we discover, I wish this person were more like me, or thought of things the way that I think about them, right? Or I wish they'd agree with me. And then, because we don't want to face the risk of creating contention or confrontation, we sort of slip into peacekeeping, which then leads to enmeshment. So, enmeshment often begins with really good intentions. Most couples fall into it without even realizing it. This is a natural tendency, especially for women, as I said. I think it's kind of that gift that God gives us as women to have the ability to track the needs of our children, to track the needs of the people around us. We're nurturers by divine design. But this gift is misused when we use it to manage the emotional needs of our partner. Over time, that dynamic makes both partners more anxious and less capable of emotional self-reliance because the relationship becomes the source of stability rather than becoming the fruit of two stable individuals. Okay, so let's look at some real life examples and just check in with yourself to see if any of these sound familiar, if they kind of resonate with you. The first dynamic we'll call confusing peacekeeping with love. Okay, so let's call this couple Mark and Lisa. So Lisa is kind, she's nurturing, she hates conflict. Mark tends to get frustrated, and when he does, he kind of withdraws and feels tense, right? Whenever Mark is quiet or distant, Lisa immediately blames herself. She gets in her head and she'll ask things like, "What did I do wrong?" And then she goes and rushes to fix it. So that might look like apologizing for things that she didn't even do. Maybe she gets busy doing extra acts of service to earn his affection back. Mark, in turn, starts to rely on Lisa to manage his emotions. He doesn't learn to regulate himself because she's always there to smooth things over. This works for a little while until Lisa starts to feel resentful and exhausted, right? She realizes she's lost touch with her own feelings and opinions, and she's walking on eggshells, constantly trying to keep him happy. So the irony here is the harder she tries to keep them close, the more distant they actually become because true connection doesn't happen when one person disappears. That's enmeshment. It looks like love. It quacks like the duck of love, right? But it's actually emotional dependency. It's a way of managing anxiety rather than building intimacy. All right, let's look at another dynamic. And this one we'll call seeking validation instead of connection. So think about this for yourself. Let's call this couple Emily and Dave. So in this scenario, Emily's kind, she's a devoted wife, she takes her role really seriously. She plans thoughtful meals, she keeps the home running smoothly, and she makes sure everyone feels cared for. She loves Dave deeply, but somewhere along the way, her sense of self-worth became quietly tied to his opinion of her. When Dave comes home from work in a good mood and he's smiling and he's affectionate and grateful, gosh, that just lights Emily up. She feels peaceful. She feels happy. She feels confident. She thinks, gosh, we're doing great. I'm a good wife. Life is good. But when Dave is tired, distracted, or quiet, something shifts inside of her. Her chest gets tighter. She starts replaying conversations in her mind and wondering, did I say something wrong? Did I upset him? Within minutes, she's on high alert, doing laundry, straightening the house, trying to make him laugh, anything to get his smile back. Because in that moment, his happiness feels like her oxygen. The problem isn't that she loves him. The problem is that she's made his mood the mirror that tells her whether she's okay or not. When our spouse is happy with us, we feel worthy. And when they're distant, we feel anxious or rejected. Okay, that's a seeking validation dynamic. Okay, the third dynamic that we see is an attempt to rescue or fix things in order to calm our own discomfort. So we'll call this couple Megan and David. So David works a stressful job. When he comes home, he's quiet, he's short tempered, he's withdrawn. Megan immediately senses it. She feels that tension like it's her job to solve. So she springs into emotional action. She asks him if he's okay, like 3 or 4 times. She makes his favorite dinner. She tries to lighten the mood with jokes. And when that doesn't work, she starts to feel anxious. Oh, he must be mad at me. What did I do? And when he stays distant, she starts to pursue. She pushes harder. She suggests they pray together, talk things out, spend quality time, right? But underneath all of this effort isn't just love, it's discomfort. And she's not okay feeling that discomfort. Megan can't rest until David's okay. Because when he's not okay, she's not okay. His emotions have become her assignment. The next day, David feels a little smothered. He tells her he just needs some space. So again, Megan feels rejected. Her brain says, after all I did for him, he doesn't even want to talk to me. And now both of them feel misunderstood and disconnected. This is what rescuing looks like. It feels loving, but it's really a form of anxiety management. Instead of allowing David to have his own emotions and trusting that he can handle them, Megan jumps in to fix his feelings. And it's not because he's asked her to do it, but because she can't handle the discomfort of his distress. Over time, my friends, this type of dynamic makes both people more anxious and less capable of emotional self-reliance because relationship becomes the source of stability rather than, again, the fruit of two stable individuals. Okay, the fourth and final dynamic we see is when we slowly lose touch with ourselves, with our preferences, our opinions, our desires. They start to fade because we're so tuned in to what the other person wants or needs. So let's use this example of Rachel and Tom. When they were first married, Rachel had a strong sense of who she was. She loved reading historical novels. She loved decorating her home, volunteering at the local shelter. She had big opinions. She liked to talk about faith and current events and ideas. But over the years, she gradually shaped herself around what makes Tom comfortable. Tom doesn't love small talk or social events, so Rachel stops hosting game nights. He rolls his eyes when she gets too emotional, so she learns to tone it down, right? He likes things neat and orderly, so she makes sure everything is just right before he gets home. If he's in a good mood, she relaxes. She feels loved. She feels safe, even feels confident. But if he's quiet or distracted, then she wonders what she did wrong and starts to walk on eggshells. Somewhere along the way, Rachel stopped asking herself, what do I want? What do I enjoy? What do I think? She can tell you Tom's favorite dinner, his favorite TV show, his political opinion, but she couldn't tell you the last time she felt lit up about her own passions or ideas. Rachel hasn't really lost herself. She's just disconnected from herself. Her identity has become so wrapped up in managing the relationship that she's forgotten how to manage herself. And the most heartbreaking part is that Tom doesn't actually want this version of Rachel who disappears. He misses the vibrant, thoughtful, funny woman he fell in love with, but her fear of disapproving him has kind of muted that spark for him. That's enmeshment. It's not dramatic or obvious. It's kind of this quiet, creeping, slow, and even though it's rooted in a place of love, it's a fear-based behavior. And again, it feels like closeness. It feels like caring at first, but it's actually anxiety-driven dependency in order to avoid feeling discomfort. These are all ways that we try to manage our anxiety through our spouse instead of managing it within ourselves. So check in with yourself for a moment. Do any of those scenarios resonate with you? If the answer is yes, then you have a little work to do to differentiate yourself so that you can have more ease, feel more peace, and enjoy more love in your relationship. It's clear that most people do not want to feel this way. So let's talk about the how. How do I go from being emotionally enmeshed to emotionally independent? So again, I always like to go back and ask the question, what does God want for me? And when I think about that, I feel the truth that enmeshment is opposite of God's plan of agency. He would never ask us to lose ourselves in someone else, even in marriage. He wants us to learn how to govern ourselves through the Spirit, to become emotionally and spiritually independent beings who can choose love rather than need it for validation. Okay, 2 Nephi 2, verse 14 teaches that we were created to act and not be acted upon. When we're enmeshed, we're constantly being acted upon by our spouse's moods, by guilt, by fear, by disapproval. Differentiation, on the other hand, honors our agency. It says, you are responsible for your emotions. I'm responsible for mine. And we can both choose love from a place of freedom. So I think it's super important to note that many people think that differentiation means to separate ourselves, to live more independently. And while that might be partially true, the error that they make is to make themselves emotionally distant, to cut themselves off emotionally. This is not what we want. Rather, we want to become emotionally mature so that we can become more emotionally intimate. So let's walk through. I'm going to give you 7 tools that will help you to free yourself from enmeshment. You might want to take a few notes. These are really impactful tools that you can use starting today that can really help if you fall into any of those categories that we mentioned earlier. Okay, so the first tool is to notice where you're taking responsibility for someone else's emotions and then work to maintain your individuality. Dr. Jennifer Finlayson Fife, who was on my podcast a few weeks ago, defines differentiation as the ability to stay connected to yourself while staying connected to another. It's not one or the other. It's not we are connected or we're not. It is we are both connected to ourselves and to each other. In other words, it's the ability to be your own person with your own thoughts, your own emotions and values, while still being in a close relationship with your spouse. It is actually what allows you to love deeply without losing yourself. You can pursue your own hobbies. You can pursue your own passions, your beliefs without feeling threatened or losing yourself in the relationship. So that's the first tool, to just notice. Notice where you're taking responsibility for someone else's emotions. Okay, the second tool is to pause before rescuing or fixing. And the way that you do this is sort of to ground yourself in your own body. Feel your feet on the ground. Slow your breathing. It brings you back to you. When you sense someone else's strong emotion, take a slow breath and ask yourself, is this mine or is this theirs? And be willing to separate your current state from theirs. If you are having a great day and you're feeling happy and relaxed, and someone else is feeling upset and triggered, you can say, hey, I see that they are having this experience. This is my experience. What do I want to choose in this moment? Do I want to stay in my experience and have empathy for what they're going through? Or do I want to join them in that downward spiral? Okay, the third tool is to name what you see, not what you feel. This looks like making a statement, right? You say what you're noticing. You seem tense tonight instead of, ooh, you're making me anxious. Or, I see that you're really frustrated. What's happening for you that's causing you to be so upset? Instead of, your behavior is upsetting me. See, you're like just interested. You're curious to know what's happening for this other person. You're trying to understand. And at the same time, you're reclaiming your own state. You're separating what's his and what's yours. You give yourself permission to have your own preferences, your own opinions, your own voice. Yeah, you don't have to jump into that pool with them. So name what you see, not what you feel. Okay, the fourth tool is to respect your differences. You know, you can tolerate and accept that your partner has their own different thoughts, feelings, and values, even during disagreements. I love to use the thought, When my husband is upset, I love to think he's upset because of what he's thinking about. Now, this is true because we all know that our thoughts create our feelings. So when I can separate myself this way and see he's experiencing something because of what he's thinking, it makes me feel like, oh, okay, that's his to manage. What do I want to think and feel? The other thought I like is he's angry because of the sentences in his head. So, whichever one works for you, we can have compassion for that, right? Because we know how that feels. So, I can feel compassion, but I don't have to feel the anger along with him. Separate it, respect your differences. Okay, the fifth tool is to express yourself. It's so important for you to have opinions, to communicate your thoughts, to talk about your needs and your desires clearly and assertively, without guilt or without the fear of disappointing your partner. It takes courage, but we have to learn to be willing for our partner to feel some disappointment at times. That can be disappointing. Life can be disappointing. That is normal. Why do we feel like we have to protect people from disappointment? It's part of life, right? Allow that you are different people who are choosing to spend your lives together, and then make room for your differences. So give yourself permission to take up space in your relationship and do it by expressing yourself. Okay, the sixth tool you can use is to hack the situation by mirroring positivity intentionally. So, just as you can mirror other people's negative emotions, you have the power to project positive ones. When you are calm, when you're kind, you're joyful, your mirror neurons invite other people to match your energy. You become the emotional leader in the room. So, next time you feel that urge to get sucked into mirroring their negativity, remember, oh, I can mirror positivity exactly the same way, and see how that does change your life, how you choose positivity on purpose and you have the power to impact other people too. Okay, the seventh tool is to seek the Spirit to help guide you in acting from love and not fear. When you invite God into your story, it can help you manage your emotions and stay regulated during times when there's conflict and stress. So, a quick prayer for help can give you so much courage to respond thoughtfully rather than reactively. Instead of thinking, if my husband would just communicate better, I'd feel loved. You start thinking, I can learn to feel loved no matter how he communicates because love is something I create within myself. Do you feel the difference? One puts you in a place of waiting, waiting for him to change so you can feel better. And the other puts you in a place of power, emotional power, spiritual power, because now you have agency over how you want to think and feel. My friends, differentiation is a process. It doesn't happen overnight, and it does take a lot of practice. But as you use these tools over time, you build that inner stability. Your marriage becomes more balanced, more peaceful, more honest. And that's where real intimacy begins. Now, I want to give you just a little warning. As you first begin this practice, it will feel off. It might even feel wrong. So be prepared for that. Just remember, Jane told you this is coming, right? Most of us women, especially as Christians and moms, we've been conditioned to believe that being one in marriage means merging completely. We've been taught to keep the peace, to not rock the boat, to put other people's needs before our own. So when using your new tools feels uncomfortable, just remind your brain, Jane said this would feel a little off. It's okay to keep going. Because while unity is a beautiful thing, remember that fusion is not. Fusion means I can't be okay unless you're okay. It means your opinion of me determines how I feel about myself, and it's exhausting. Differentiation, on the other hand, says, I can love you and still think differently than you. I can stay calm even when you're upset. I can feel confident in who I am, even when you don't agree with me. It's emotional maturity. It's taking responsibility for our own emotions instead of trying to get someone else to manage them for us, or instead of trying to manage them for someone else. Does this make sense? When you start learning to hold your own emotional ground, something really incredible happens. You stop taking things so personally. You stop needing your spouse to think or feel a certain way before you can feel at peace. You start communicating more clearly without the need to control your partner's reactions. And then as a result, you become a much safer, more grounded, and more magnetic partner. Your spouse will be drawn to you in this state. True intimacy, emotional, spiritual, even sexual, can only exist between two people who are both standing on their own 2 feet. Otherwise, we're just leaning on each other out of fear. I believe that Christ modeled this so well. His love was never conditional or controlling. He didn't guilt, he didn't manipulate or demand. Think about him. He invites, he loves, he allows. And that's what differentiated love looks like. Loving freely without fear and without losing yourself. Okay, I want to give you just a little journaling exercise, something to think about. So grab a pen and paper if you want to. But I want to invite you to think about this. Where in your marriage do you tend to lose yourself a little? Is it when we're in conflict? Is it when there's decision making happening, choices we need to decide on, things we need to agree on? Is it in needing approval? Do you feel like you tend to need your spouse's approval a lot? And then ask yourself, what might it look like for me to bring more of myself into that space from a regulated place, right? From a calm, loving, peaceful state. This is how we grow our marriage up, my friends. This is the process that saved my own marriage. And it is one of the most healing and healthy gifts I ever gave myself. And I know that you can do it too. So make the decision to be courageous. Stop needing your spouse to make you whole, and instead bring your whole self into your marriage. Okay, my friend, if this episode resonates with you, I'd love you to share it with another woman who needs to feel more peace and joy in her marriage. Please share. And if you want to go deeper into this work, into emotional intelligence, intimacy, growth, come find me. This is the heart of what I do as a coach, and I'd love to work with you. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so grateful that you show up and listen every week. Until next time, please remember that you can love deeply and stay true to yourself. And that is the kind of love that lasts. Make it a great week. I'll see you next time. Hey, if you are ready to get unstuck and make your midlife amazing, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. And I want to invite you to join my Empty Nest Academy, where you will learn how to transform your mind, your relationships, and your life. Come free yourself of regret and disappointment and be so much happier. Listen, sis, we've got one shot at this big, beautiful life. Let's make it amazing. Go to janecopier.com, that's JaneCopier.com, and sign up today. And if you're not sure what's right for you, book a free consultation with me and we'll talk it over together. And we'll make sure to get you on the path that serves you the best. See you inside.